Naruto Uzumaki stood in the academy examination room, with his hands locked in the clone seal. The pale copy on the floor had already failed him. Iruka told him to stop, but Naruto pulled at his chakra one more time. Something deep inside him answered. The seal around the nine tails twisted. The room vanished. Cold water closed around Naruto's sandals, and two red eyes opened behind a gate taller than a house. Black sealing script raced across the ceiling, while the fox slammed one claw against the bars. The gate did not weaken, it tightened. Naruto could still feel his real body, but only as a distant heartbeat. Kurama stopped attacking long enough to count it. More than 3 days passed inside the seal before the next beat arrived. 10 heartbeats pushed the internal clock past a month. The fox studied the emergency pattern and reached the only conclusion that fit. The repair cycle would hold for roughly 1 day in the outside world. Inside, Naruto and Kurama would experience close to 1,000 years. Naruto thought Kurama was lying. Then another heartbeat took days to arrive. The black script stayed locked above them. They were trapped. Naruto's first response was panic. He hammered on the walls, shouted for Iruka, demanded that Kurama fix it, and finally tried to force himself awake. Every attempt ended in the same endless corridor. Kurama's response was anger. He attacked the gate. He flooded the chamber with chakra. He tried to tear open the script overhead. The emergency pattern redirected everything back into the seal and grew tighter each time. After what felt like 3 days, the fox stopped wasting strength. Naruto stopped shouting 1 day later. He sat in the water, with his back against a pipe, and listened to the faint pulse of his distant body. He could not stay frightened forever. Fear became exhausting when nothing changed. Naruto began counting too. Over the following weeks, they checked the ratio again and again. The estimate moved slightly, but never enough to matter. If Naruto's body survived the repair cycle outside, his mind would spend roughly a millennium in here before it ended. Naruto accused Kurama of lying, but the fox wished the estimate was wrong just as badly. For several hours, Naruto sat in the water, trying to imagine a span longer than every Hokage's life added together, longer than the village had existed, and longer than any human life he understood. Eventually, his fear collided with a stubborn thought. He had failed the clone technique because he could not control his chakra. And every teacher who criticized him had always run out of time before Naruto ran out of determination. Here, time was the one thing he possessed in absurd abundance. He stood, formed the clone seal, and produced another pale copy that collapsed like wet laundry. The next one looked just as bad. He kept going. By the end of the first internal month, the copies could stand. By the end of the first year, Naruto could split the exact amount of chakra needed for the simple academy clone without wasting a drop. Kurama did not praise him. The fox simply pointed out that Naruto had spent a year learning something children were supposed to learn in weeks. Naruto laughed, because for once the insult did not hurt. He had 999 years left. That answer made Kurama quiet. The internal world was not a physical place, but the seal responded to chakra and intention. Naruto discovered that he could reshape small sections of the corridor if he supplied the energy himself. At first, he could make a dry floor, a wall, and a wooden training post. Later, he created slopes, narrow alleys, stone platforms, forests made from memory, and rooms copied from the academy. Kurama could do far more. The fox had lived through wars. He remembered armies, hunters, sealing teams, swordsmen, and Jinchuriki who had tried to control him. When Naruto demanded a real opponent, Kurama created a crude chakra figure based on an old shinobi he remembered. The figure struck Naruto in the throat before Naruto finished raising his hands. Naruto woke in the shallow water beside the gate, with his neck burning and Kurama's laughter shaking the pipes. That first defeat taught him another rule of the sealed world. His chakra body could be broken, even killed inside a simulation. But the emergency layer rebuilt it near the gate, as long as his real body remained alive outside. The pain stayed in his memory. So did the mistake. Food and water were unnecessary because nothing here was biological, but mental exhaustion was real. Naruto still had to sleep when his concentration began to fray. He tried again. The second attempt lasted 4 seconds. The 10th lasted 12. The 100th lasted almost a minute. Naruto learned something important during those first years. Endless time did not erase failure. It gave him enough room to examine a mistake until the mistake stopped being mysterious. He noticed his weight drifting before a punch, the exact amount of chakra his feet needed to grip stone, and the way his shoulders tightened whenever he expected pain. Watching an opponent's hips became more useful than staring at moving hands. Even fear became something he could measure through his own breathing. Losing stopped feeling like proof that he was useless. It became information. The boy, who had once repeated the same mistake until a teacher yelled at him, began keeping marks on the wall for every error he understood. After 10 internal years, the wall was covered. After 20, Naruto erased it and started again with smaller handwriting. Kurama noticed. He still hated the village. He still considered Naruto the lock on his cage. But the child outside the bars was changing, and Kurama had nothing else to watch. Naruto began asking questions about chakra that academy instructors had never been able to answer. Why did it become unstable when emotion changed? Why could two shinobi use the same technique with different results? Why did Kurama's chakra feel dense enough to push against ordinary chakra, like moving water against smoke? Kurama ignored most questions until Naruto began experimenting on his own. That became irritating. Naruto would spend months testing a wrong theory when Kurama could correct it with 3 words. Eventually, the fox started correcting him. He told himself it was only to stop the boy from being annoying. Naruto accepted the help without thanking him too much. He had learned that gratitude made Kurama suspicious. Years became decades. Naruto stopped trying to collect techniques he could not possibly know. Instead, he pulled apart the few techniques he did know until he understood them completely. Transformation became an exercise in maintaining an exact chakra shell under impact. Replacement became a study of timing, perception, and preparation. Basic clones became tools for confusing sight and measuring an enemy's reactions. He developed ways to reinforce his muscles with chakra, though Kurama warned him that his real body outside the seal would remain 12 years old. The internal body was a chakra reflection. It could teach coordination, timing, and control, while real muscle and bone stayed untouched in the hospital. Naruto took the warnings seriously and built his exercises around the limits he expected to face after waking. Kurama called the caution cowardice. Naruto called it planning. By the 50th year, Kurama could no longer hit him with the same simulated fighter twice. By the 100th, Naruto could identify most attacks from the first shift of weight. Kurama began creating groups. Naruto learned to fight 3 opponents, then 10, then 30. He lost when he tried to overpower them. He improved when he learned to control space, force enemies into each other's paths, and use the environment as another weapon. At 140 years, Kurama created a sealing squad from one of his ugliest memories. Naruto was defeated in less than a minute. The simulated shinobi did not try to injure him. They cut off his movement, anchored his chakra to 4 points, and suppressed every large burst he attempted. It was the first time in decades Naruto felt helpless. He spent the next 11 years solving that one problem. The answer came through precision. Naruto learned to move chakra in amounts too small for the field to react to immediately, then changed the rhythm. So the simulated sealers could not predict where the next pulse would gather. Against suppression, 1,000 small decisions often worked better than one overwhelming release. When he finally defeated the simulation, Kurama did not laugh. The fox asked Naruto why he cared so much about fighting sealers. Naruto looked at the gate between them. He said he was starting to understand what a cage felt like. For the first time, Kurama looked away first. Naruto's questions changed after that. Strength was no longer enough. He wanted to know who had built cages like this before, what a Jinchuriki truly was, why villages treated tailed beasts as military property, And what had happened on the night he was born? Kurama avoided those questions for years. Naruto gave him space, instead of turning every conversation into a fight. Around their second century together, the fox finally gave the boy something he had never offered before. His name was Kurama. During their third century together, Kurama told him about Kushina Uzumaki. He described her as a stubborn woman, with chains strong enough to hold a tailed beast, and a temper strong enough to make everyone nearby regret testing it. He told Naruto that she had carried him before Naruto did. He told him that the man who had sealed Kurama into Naruto was Minato Namikaze, the fourth Hokage. Naruto understood the rest before Kurama finished. He sat beside the gate for a long time with his hands resting on his knees. The fourth Hokage was his father. Kushina was his mother. The people of Konoha had known at least part of the truth, and Naruto had grown up believing he had come from nowhere. The old Naruto would have shouted until his throat hurt. The Naruto who had already spent centuries inside the seal asked Kurama to tell him exactly what happened. Kurama did. He described the masked man who had controlled him, Kushina's weakened seal after childbirth, the attack on Konoha, and Minato's final decision. Minato had divided Kurama's chakra and sealed one half inside Naruto, making the fox in front of him powerful, but incomplete. Kurama also admitted that after the masked man's control broke, his hatred and desperation for freedom had still made him willing to kill anyone in his path. Naruto came away angry at several people for several different reasons. The truth was uglier than the childhood story of a monster that simply appeared and attacked the village. He began to understand why Kurama hated cages. Kurama began to understand why Naruto hated being lied to. Their training changed again. Kurama started allowing Naruto to touch small amounts of his chakra on purpose. The first attempt nearly tore Naruto's internal chakra body apart. The fox's energy was too dense and too angry. Naruto spent months learning to take only what he could shape. He refused to steal it through the seal. That mattered to Kurama. They built rules. Naruto would ask, Kurama would choose how much to give. Naruto would return the flow instead of letting the seal drag it away. Each successful exchange made the next one easier. Centuries passed inside a world where neither body aged. The repetitive years did not remain equally sharp in Naruto's conscious memory. Long stretches of drills compressed into instinct and procedural memory, stored through the same chakra patterns he practiced every day, while important defeats, discoveries, and conversations remained vivid. That compression kept 1,000 years from becoming a wall of identical memories. Naruto still marked time so the centuries would have shape. Every 100 years, he carved a new line into a stone pillar beside the gate. Kurama pretended not to care, but on the morning of the 7th mark, the fox corrected Naruto when he placed it one day early. Naruto laughed for nearly an hour. By then, they could fight each other directly inside the seal. Kurama still possessed overwhelming raw power. Naruto possessed control, patience, and a growing understanding of how the fox thought. Their battles reshaped the internal landscape. Kurama created forests of tails, waves of chakra, and crushing pressure. Naruto learned to survive inside them, find empty spaces, redirect force, and close distance without wasting movement. He never truly defeated Kurama at full power. That was not the point. Kurama could erase the training field if he wanted. Naruto's goal was to remain functional against power far above his own. He learned to make decisions while the ground disappeared under him. He learned to protect imaginary civilians while fighting. He learned that winning was sometimes less important than controlling what the battle was allowed to destroy. That lesson would matter more than either of them knew. At 800 years, Naruto could form a thin layer of Kurama's chakra around his internal body without losing control. He could strengthen his limbs, sharpen his senses, and recover from damage inside the simulation. He deliberately avoided building a giant beast form. His real body outside had never handled that amount of chakra, and he had no interest in returning home only to tear himself apart. At 900 years, Kurama taught him how to recognize the feel of sealing techniques that had been used against tailed beasts. Naruto could not reproduce every formula. he did not have the written knowledge. What he gained was something different. He could feel when a seal tried to redirect, bind, divide, or suppress chakra. He also learned the limits of his education. Kurama knew almost nothing about hospital medicine. He remembered battles, not medical textbooks. He could recognize several elemental transformations by feel, but he could not teach Naruto the exact hand seals for techniques he had only seen from a distance. He could describe famous shinobi and old wars, yet much of his information was decades out of date. 1,000 years of practice could perfect information he possessed. It could not create information that had never entered the seal. During the final internal year, Naruto stopped training for several days. He sat beside Kurama's gate and listened to the distant pulse of his real body. It had grown faster compared with the internal flow. The emergency pattern overhead was fading. Lines of script that had burned bright for centuries were going dark one by one. Their time was ending. Naruto walked through the landscapes he had built over the centuries. There was the academy room where he had learned the clone technique properly. There was the narrow canyon, where Kurama had killed his chakra body more times than Naruto could count. There was the stone yard, filled with marks from ceiling simulations. There was a small wooden porch Naruto had created from an incomplete childhood memory of watching other families eat dinner together. He had spent longer here than he had ever lived outside. That frightened him in a new way. Konoha would look almost exactly the same. Iruka would still remember yesterday. Naruto would remember him from 1,000 years ago. Kurama sensed the tension and told him that the outside world would feel wrong for a while. The fox knew something about watching human lives move too quickly. Naruto sat down beside the gate one last time. He made Kurama a promise. He would not pretend the fox was a friend if Kurama did not want that word. He would not call him a weapon. He would not let anyone add another seal to their prison without both of them agreeing. Kurama stared at him through the bars. Then, the fox pushed a small stream of chakra through the gate by choice. It settled around Naruto's hand like warm fire. That was Kurama's answer. The ceiling split with white light. Naruto felt gravity for the first time in 1,000 years. His real lungs filled sharply. His eyes opened. A hospital ceiling came into focus above him. The room smelled of disinfectant and boiled cloth. Morning light entered through a narrow window. His right arm felt heavy. His mouth was dry. Every muscle in his body seemed too small. Iruka was asleep in a chair beside the bed, with his arms folded and his head against the wall. Naruto stared at him. For several seconds he could not move. He had imagined this moment so many times that the real version felt less solid than the seal. Then Iruka opened his eyes. He shot upright so quickly that the chair scraped across the floor. Naruto watched the relief hit his face. Iruka called for a medic and grabbed Naruto's shoulder as if checking whether he was really awake. The touch nearly broke Naruto's control. 1,000 years of training had prepared him for killing intent, battlefield pressure, and Kurama's chakra. It had not prepared him for someone he remembered from childhood, touching him as if only one night had passed. Naruto covered Iruka's hand with his own. His fingers looked absurdly small. He asked how long he had been unconscious. Iruka said 23 hours. Naruto closed his eyes. Kurama's voice came from deep inside him, dry and familiar. Their count had been right. 1,000 years had passed inside the seal. Outside, Naruto had missed a single day. The first medical examination lasted less than 10 minutes before the staff called the Hokage. Naruto's body was healthy. His brain showed no obvious injury. His chakra network was another matter. The medic placed 2 fingers near Naruto's stomach and tried to read the seal. She pulled her hand back so fast that she nearly dropped her chart. The violent interference usually associated with the 9 tails was gone. Naruto's chakra and Kurama's rested against each other like 2 currents moving in the same direction. That should not have been possible. Naruto noticed her fear before she could hide it. He did not blame her. Yesterday, from her point of view, he had been an academy failure who could barely control a basic clone. Today, The largest source of chakra in Konoha sat inside him in complete balance. Hiruzen Sarutobi arrived with 2 Anbu outside the door. Naruto recognized the old man's walk before he entered. The third Hokage looked exactly as Naruto remembered him, right down to the tired lines around his eyes. For Hiruzen, those memories were recent. For Naruto, they belonged to another age. Hiruzen asked the medics to leave. He sat beside the bed and studied Naruto's face for a long moment. Naruto could see the questions forming. He could also see the caution. Hiruzen's right hand never moved far from the edge of his robe. Naruto respected that. A village leader who ignored a changed Jinchuriki would be an idiot. Hiruzen asked what had happened during the examination. Naruto answered carefully. He explained the chakra surge, the emergency layer inside the seal, the distorted time, and the fact that Kurama had remained conscious with him. He did not explain every technique he had practiced. He did not describe the limits of Kurama's cooperation. 1,000 years had taught him the difference between honesty and surrendering every advantage. Hiruzen listened until Naruto mentioned Minato Namikaze. The old man's expression changed. Naruto continued before Hiruzen could interrupt. He named Kushina Uzumaki as his mother. He described the masked man who had controlled Kurama. He repeated details of the night of his birth that a 12-year-old academy student had no way to know. Hiruzen's shoulders lowered slightly. Naruto saw guilt there. Hiruzen did not treat the information as a family revelation and move on. Before the conversation ended, he ordered the sealed records from the Nine Tails attack reopened under Anbu authority. An unknown shinobi capable of controlling Kurama had attacked Konoha and had never been identified. That was now an active security problem again. Hiruzen also sent an urgent encrypted summons to Jiraiya, Minato's former teacher, and the one living shinobi he trusted most with the original sealing arrangements. Jiraiya was outside the village and could not be expected back immediately, but Hiruzen wanted him informed before anyone touched the seal. That did not make Naruto's questions disappear. He asked why the truth had been hidden from him. Hiruzen explained the fear of Minato's enemies, the danger surrounding the Jinchuriki, and the hope that Naruto could grow without carrying his father's name as another target. Naruto understood the logic. He also understood the cost. He told Hiruzen that he would decide later whether the decision had been right. For now, he wanted one promise. No one would alter his seal without his consent. Hiruzen did not answer immediately. Naruto felt Kurama stir. The Hokage finally agreed that no modification would be made while Naruto remained stable, but he insisted on an evaluation. The village had to know whether Naruto could safely control his chakra. Naruto accepted. He had expected worse. The evaluation happened that afternoon on a closed training ground. Kakashi Hatake waited there with Hiruzen, 2 seal specialists, and 3 Anbu hidden in the trees. Naruto recognized Kakashi from Kurama's descriptions and from old village memories, but he had never trained with him. 1,000 years had not magically given Naruto knowledge of Kakashi's personal habits. Kakashi looked at the small blonde boy walking onto the field and clearly expected uncertainty. Naruto felt something else. His body was wrong. His center of gravity sat higher than the internal body he had grown accustomed to controlling through centuries of simulated combat. His legs were shorter. His lungs were real and slightly weak after a day in bed. The muscles in his shoulders trembled when he sent too much chakra through them. He adjusted his first step, then the second. Kakashi noticed. The test was simple. Naruto had to cross the field and touch a wooden marker behind Kakashi. Kakashi could stop him using normal shinobi methods, but Hiruzen had forbidden lethal techniques. Naruto moved. His first burst was too strong. Chakra hit his calves harder than his real muscles could handle. Pain snapped through both legs, and Naruto cut the flow before he tore something. Kakashi reached him instantly. Naruto dropped under the grabbing hand, turned on one palm, and swept Kakashi's ankle. The Jonin hopped over it. Naruto did not chase. He had already learned what he needed. His body could handle roughly 1/5 of the reinforcement he had practiced inside the seal. For the next 30 seconds, he fought within that limit. Kakashi's experience was real, not simulated. He changed rhythm in ways Kurama's reconstructed enemies never had. He used feints with his eyes, shoulders, and feet. Naruto enjoyed the surprise more than he expected. Kakashi reached for a kunai. Naruto cast 2 ordinary illusion clones across his line of sight. They had no physical substance, but they forced Kakashi to spend a fraction of a second confirming the real body. Naruto used that fraction for the Academy replacement technique. A split training log appeared, where Kakashi expected Naruto to be. Naruto reappeared beside the wooden marker at the rear edge of the field and touched it with 2 fingers before Kakashi could turn. The test ended. Hiruzen said nothing for several seconds. One of the SEAL specialists checked the field for hidden clone marks or pre-placed techniques. There were none. Kakashi asked when Naruto had learned to use replacement that way. Naruto answered that he had been practicing for a long time. Technically, it was the most accurate answer he could give. The result created a problem the Academy was not designed to solve. Naruto had failed the official clone portion of his graduation exam the previous day. He had therefore not graduated. At the same time, the closed evaluation proved that calling him an ordinary Academy student had become ridiculous. Hiruzen refused to hand him a promotion based on one test. Naruto agreed. Rank was an administrative tool, and he knew almost nothing about actual mission procedure, current border codes, intelligence protocols, or the laws governing shinobi work. That was another limit 1,000 years inside the seal could not erase. So Hiruzen created a temporary status. Naruto would complete accelerated field qualification under direct supervision. He would be treated as a shinobi candidate, not assigned to a normal genin squad, and his unusual condition would remain classified while the village decided what to do next. Naruto accepted the arrangement for one reason. It gave him access to information. Over the next 8 days, he learned more about the current world than he had during the last century inside the seal. Maps had changed, alliances had shifted. Several shinobi Kurama remembered were dead. Others now led clans or departments. Naruto studied Konoha's mission system, current hand signals, border rules, and emergency procedures. He read until his eyes hurt, because the external world no longer waited for him. Every hour mattered again. His body adapted quickly, although not in the way centuries of training inside the seal had once tempted Naruto to imagine. His muscles did not become adult muscles in a week. His bones did not suddenly gain years of growth. What improved was calibration. Naruto never repeated the mistake from the first evaluation. He increased chakra reinforcement in tiny steps and stopped the instant a tendon or joint gave the wrong warning. His Uzumaki vitality recovered from ordinary strain unusually fast, while Kurama supplied controlled chakra to speed the healing of minor training damage. By the 4th day, Naruto could reach bursts that forced Kakashi to use the Sharingan during short exchanges. By the 8th, he could reproduce those bursts without tearing his 12-year-old body apart. He was using the body he had more efficiently, not pretending it was already grown. He still did not know Kakashi's full arsenal. That made their training useful. Kakashi discovered that Naruto almost never fell for the same trick twice. Naruto discovered that real shinobi were messier than simulations. They lied about their own habits. They used terrain they had not planned. They sometimes made bad decisions that became dangerous precisely because no rational fighter would expect them. Naruto liked learning again. Ordinary life was harder in smaller ways. Iruka took him to Ichiraku after one training session and spent half the meal trying to decide whether Naruto was exhausted or simply staring at the steam. Naruto finally admitted that he had spent centuries eating nothing at all inside the seal and had forgotten how distracting the smell of real food could be. He ordered a second bowl too quickly, discovered that a 12-year-old stomach had opinions his mind had not consulted, and had to sit there while Kurama laughed at him from inside the seal. The next afternoon, Naruto passed 2 academy students arguing over which of them had the faster kunai draw. He automatically explained that both were planting their rear foot too early and giving away the throw. The boys stared at him as if a grandfather had possessed one of their classmates. Naruto walked 3 streets before realizing why. Kurama informed him that social reintegration was going beautifully. Naruto told him to shut up. He was still smiling when he said it. The village, however, did not know what to make of him. Rumors started despite the classification. Academy instructors knew Naruto had awakened. Hospital staff knew his seal had changed. A few Anbu had watched him cross a training field against Kakashi. By the end of the week, several senior shinobi had heard that the Nine Tails Jinchuriki was undergoing a private evaluation ordered by the Hokage. Danzo Shimura heard more than that. Danzo did not believe miracles were safe. For years he had argued that Konoha's Jinchuriki should be trained under root control. Hiruzen had refused to turn Naruto into a weapon stripped of identity. Now the boy had somehow achieved the one thing Danzo feared most. He had formed a stable relationship with the Nine Tails without village supervision. A controllable weapon was useful. An independent weapon with opinions was a strategic threat. Danzo requested a private council session. Naruto was not present, but the consequences reached him immediately. His temporary access to the Academy archive was restricted. 2 additional Anbu began following him. A barrier team placed new sensors around his apartment building. Naruto noticed all 3 changes before anyone explained them. He did not become angry. He asked Kakashi, who had the authority to order those measures. Kakashi told him the Hokage had approved the sensors after pressure from the council, but not the archive restriction. That order had come through a security office connected to Danzo. Naruto knew the name. Kurama remembered Danzo as one of the men who had built power in the shadows after the wars. Naruto did not know his current network. He did not pretend otherwise. He went directly to Hiruzen. That surprised several people. They expected secrecy from a boy hiding an impossible change. Naruto instead placed the restriction notice on Hiruzen's desk and asked whether the Hokage intended to keep his promise about the seal. Hiruzen said yes. Naruto then asked whether anyone else in the village had the authority to override that promise. Hiruzen's face hardened. He said no. That answer mattered 3 nights later. Naruto woke before dawn when Kurama spoke his name. A foreign pulse had touched the outer edge of the seal. It was tiny. An ordinary Jinchuriki might have mistaken it for a natural fluctuation. Naruto had spent centuries studying suppression patterns. He recognized the intent immediately. Something outside his apartment was testing how his seal redirected chakra. Naruto remained in bed. He extended his senses through Kurama's chakra in the thinnest layer he could manage. 4 signatures waited on nearby rooftops. A 5th stood in the alley below. Their chakra was deliberately quiet. None wore the Anbu patterns Naruto had learned during his qualification training. Kurama wanted to flood the building with chakra and see who survived. Naruto rejected the idea. There were civilians in the apartments below him. Naruto had spent centuries practicing hair-thin chakra filaments as a control exercise. They were too weak to restrain a person or move heavy objects, but they could carry a faint chakra signature and probe the edge of a seal. He left 1 filament threaded through the room, pulsing with the rhythm the watchers expected, then flattened the rest of his chakra and slipped through the bathroom window. The watchers kept their attention on the false pulse, while Naruto moved along the underside of the roof, using chakra in his fingertips. He followed the 5th signature instead. The man in the alley carried a folded paper tag inside his sleeve. Naruto could feel the seal written on it. It was not powerful enough to restrain Kurama. It was a measuring tag designed to record the response of a larger seal when placed nearby. Naruto dropped behind him. The masked shinobi spun with a short blade. Naruto caught his wrist, struck the nerve above the elbow, and pressed 2 fingers under the man's jaw. The fight lasted less than a second. The shinobi collapsed without seeing Naruto's face clearly. Naruto took the tag and stepped back into the shadows. The 4 rooftop signatures moved at once. They were disciplined. 2 went for the unconscious operative. 1 moved toward Naruto's apartment. The 4th retreated across the roofs with the speed of a messenger. Naruto let the messenger go. Kurama asked why. Naruto wanted whoever had sent them to receive accurate information. The information was simple. Naruto had detected the test, neutralized an operative, and chosen not to kill anyone. By sunrise, the captured shinobi was in Anbu custody. By breakfast, Hiruzen knew the man belonged to Root. Danzo denied authorizing the operation. That denial did not convince Naruto, but it created a problem. Root was officially subordinate to the Hokage. Its members carried compartmentalized orders. The captured operative had been given a testing assignment through 2 intermediaries and could not prove Danzo had personally ordered anything. Hiruzen still had enough evidence to act against the organization, even if he could not yet prove Danzo's personal order. He suspended every Root operation involving Naruto, ordered an internal audit of Root mission traffic, and required Danzo's department to turn over any sealing equipment calibrated to the Nine Tails. ANBU were given written authority to arrest any Root operative who approached Naruto without the Hokage's approval. Naruto understood what the speed of that compliance meant. If Danzo intended to act again, the audit had started a clock. Naruto could have forced the issue with violence. He did not. 1,000 years of fighting had taught him that destroying the nearest opponent was not always the same as winning. He asked for a formal meeting with Danzo instead. Hiruzen hesitated, then allowed it inside the Hokage building under guard. Danzo arrived with his cane and bandaged eye, looking at Naruto as though measuring a weapon rack. Naruto disliked him immediately. The feeling did not matter. Danzo argued that Naruto's transformation created a security crisis. No village could allow its Jinchuriki to operate outside command structures. He proposed moving Naruto to a protected training site, placing a secondary suppression seal around the existing one, and assigning instructors selected by the Security Council. Naruto understood the language. Kurama understood the cage hidden inside it. Naruto asked one question. Would he be allowed to leave the facility whenever he chose? Danzo answered that such freedom would depend on successful evaluation. Naruto looked at Hiruzen. The Hokage rejected the proposal. Danzo did not argue further in the room. He did not need to. 2 days later, someone leaked a distorted version of Naruto's condition to several clan representatives. The report claimed that the Nine Tails chakra had fused unpredictably with Naruto's network, and that Hiruzen was hiding the risk. Parents began pulling children away when Naruto walked through public streets. Shopkeepers who had slowly learned to tolerate him became frightened again. Naruto felt the old reaction in his chest. It was smaller than it had been when he was 12. 1,000 years had not erased the memory of being unwanted. He bought ramen anyway. Teuchi placed the bowl in front of him with the same easy motion he always had. Naruto ate slowly and listened to the village around him. He realized that Danzo's best weapon was not a ceiling tag. It was fear. If Naruto answered fear with overwhelming force, Danzo would win even while losing the fight. So Naruto changed his goal. He had originally wanted only to keep anyone from altering the seal. Now he wanted something more permanent. He wanted a legal status that recognized him as a shinobi with the right to refuse involuntary sealing procedures. And he wanted the village record to state that Kurama was cooperating voluntarily. It sounded like paperwork. Kurama hated paperwork more than most sealing techniques. Naruto found that funny enough to smile for the first time that day. Hiruzen told him the request was possible, but not simple. The village treated Jinchuriki as military assets in emergency law. Changing Naruto's status would require proof that his control remained stable under real field pressure. Kakashi proposed a qualification mission, already being prepared for another team. A Konoha border relay in the northern forests had stopped reporting. The relay stored emergency communication seals and controlled a chain of signal towers used by patrols. The last message suggested bandits, but the silence had lasted too long for ordinary thieves. The mission was dangerous enough to test Naruto and contained no civilians inside the relay itself. Naruto agreed. Hiruzen assigned Kakashi as mission commander and Kurenai Yuhi as a second observer because her genjutsu expertise could identify mental instability or outside manipulation. 2 communication specialists accompanied them to repair the relay if it could be recovered. Before they left, Hiruzen allowed Naruto to read the security material used during the council argument over Jinchuriki control. One comparison sheet had been supplied by Danzo's office. It listed known hosts in other villages and treated each one like a military problem. A short entry from the hidden sand caught Naruto's attention. It described the Kazekage's son, Gaara, as a young host whose seal worsened during sleep and whose isolation had made him increasingly dangerous. Naruto knew almost nothing else about the boy, and the border mission came first, but he remembered the name. Kurama remembered the tailed beast inside him too. The mission itself had nothing to do with the path Naruto would once have followed. There was no normal Genin squad or routine first assignment. Naruto left Konoha under direct supervision with 2 experienced shinobi who had been told to judge whether the village's Jinchuriki could be trusted with his own freedom. Naruto considered that insulting. He also considered it fair. The northern relay stood inside a narrow valley 2 days from the village. They found the first body 3 miles south of it. The dead patrolman had no visible wound. Kakashi stopped the group before anyone touched him. Kurenai examined the body and the ground around it carefully. At first, she found nothing. Then she brushed 2 pale grains from beneath the man's collar and another from the mud beside his heel. The residue was part of a mineral carrier used in old chakra suppression mixtures. Too little to form a deliberate line and easy to miss unless someone knew what to look for. It looked like transfer from a tool or glove used near the body. Naruto crouched several feet away. Kurama's chakra tightened inside him. The smell of the residue was familiar from their sealing simulations. This was not a bandit attack. Kakashi ordered the communication specialists to remain behind a defensive barrier while the 3 shinobi advanced. The valley ahead looked empty. Naruto felt 14 chakra signatures. Then he felt the 15th. That one was hidden inside the relay tower and carried a pattern Naruto had encountered only once outside the seal. Root, he told Kakashi. Kakashi's visible eyes sharpened. Before he could signal a retreat, 4 metal stakes erupted from the ground around Naruto. Black script raced between them. The valley filled with pressure. Naruto's chakra dropped like a stone. Kurama's voice distorted inside his head. The attack had been prepared for a Jinchuriki. This was not a field test. Someone had sent them into a trap. The suppression formation hit Naruto harder than any ordinary attack could have. His knees bent. The thin current of Kurama's chakra he had been using to sense the valley vanished from his skin. The 4 stakes pulled at the seal at his stomach from different directions, forcing his chakra inward and locking the larger pathways around his core. A younger Naruto would have tried to overpower it. That was exactly what the formation expected. Naruto stayed down. Kakashi moved first. 3 masked shinobi dropped from the cliff on his right. He met them with a kunai and drove the first back, but 2 more appeared behind the relay wall. Kurenai turned toward the communication specialists as smoke canisters burst in the grass around them. The smoke carried suppressant powder and a mild hallucinogen. The attackers had prepared for every member of the team. Naruto put 2 fingers against the ground. The formation was strong because the 4 stakes shared pressure. Every time one point received extra chakra, the others adjusted. Kurama could have broken a single stake through brute force. The linked network would redirect that force through Naruto's own seal before it reached the metal. Naruto had spent 11 internal years trapped in almost the same problem. He let his breathing slow. He stopped trying to circulate chakra through the large pathways around his stomach. Instead, he moved threads so small that the formation barely registered them. A little into his left foot, a little into his right hand, a narrow line along his spine. Tiny amounts collected where he needed them and disappeared before the stakes could adjust. One masked attacker rushed him with a suppression spike. Naruto waited until the last step. He moved 6 inches. The spike struck dirt. Naruto caught the attacker's wrist and used the man's forward momentum to send him shoulder first into the nearest stake. Metal rang. The formation flickered for less than half a second. That was enough. Naruto sent the chakra stored in his left foot through the ground, not toward the stake, but sideways beneath it. The earth cracked under the metal anchor. Its angle shifted by the width of a finger. Pressure changed across the entire formation. Kurama's voice became clear again. Naruto told Kakashi to cut the northern anchor at ground level. Kakashi did not ask why. He threw a kunai, missed deliberately, and used the wire attached to it to swing around two root operatives. His hand flashed through a short sequence of seals. Lightning gathered around his palm. He drove it into the base of the northern stake. The metal split, the formation collapsed unevenly. Kurama's chakra surged toward the opening. Naruto held it back for 1 extra second. 3 root operatives were standing too close to the broken anchor. A full release would have crushed them against the cliff and might have killed them. Naruto redirected the first wave downward. The ground burst instead. A ring of dirt and broken stone threw the attackers off their feet. Then, Naruto stood. Orange chakra covered him in a thin, controlled layer that clung to his body rather than exploding outward. The remaining root shinobi changed tactics immediately. 4 attacked Kakashi. 3 moved for Kurenai and the specialists. 5 formed a second ceiling line around Naruto, while the hidden commander inside the relay began activating something larger. Naruto saw the pattern. The 5 shinobi were not trying to defeat him. They were buying 6 or 7 seconds. He disappeared from the center of their formation. His real body could now handle far more reinforcement than it had 8 days earlier. He crossed the distance to the first root operative before the man's hands finished a seal. Naruto struck his chest with an open palm and released a precise burst of chakra. The impact shut down the man's breath and dropped him unconscious. The second operative tried to turn. Naruto tapped the side of his knee, then the shoulder, then the jaw. He fell. The third swung a blade, coated in sealing ink. Naruto dropped under the blade and transformed for a heartbeat into a torn strip of black cloth, already lying in the churned grass. The attacker's eyes searched for a standing body. Naruto released the transformation, slipped around his blind side, and struck the base of his skull with controlled force. The 4th and 5th retreated together. Naruto let them. They were retreating toward the relay entrance, exactly where he wanted them to go. Inside the tower, the hidden commander completed the larger formation. Every old communication seal carved into the relay walls lit at once. The relay had been built to send chakra signals across the northern border. Root had reversed the network. Instead of sending information outward, the entire tower began pulling chakra toward a containment chamber at its center. Naruto felt the drag catch Kurama. This trap was much stronger than the 4 stakes. Kurama snarled. Naruto did not resist the pull. He ran toward it. Kakashi realized what he was doing and swore under his breath. But Naruto was already inside the relay. The 2 retreating root shinobi expected him to fight the suction. Their stance and seals were built around an enemy trying to move away from the chamber. Naruto accelerated with the pull instead. He passed between them before they could reverse their footing. The central room was circular and covered in black script. A root captain stood on a raised platform with one hand pressed against the control seal. A heavy suppression cage surrounded him and the main array. The captain told Naruto that resistance would only damage his own chakra network. Naruto believed him. The array was well designed. That was why Naruto did not attack the cage. He looked at the walls. Communication relays needed redundancy. If one transmission line failed, the others continued carrying the signal. Root had turned that feature into the strength of the containment array. It was also the weakness. Naruto pressed 4 fingertips against the wall and extended the same hair-thin chakra filaments he had used outside his apartment. Each filament touched a different sensing mark in the relay network. They carried almost no power, only carefully shaped signals. The root captain ignored them at first. The formation was built to suppress huge chakra surges, not threads that felt weaker than background leakage. Naruto fed 4 different flow patterns into the sensing marks. The relay interpreted each one as the strongest available route and activated its redundancy. Naruto changed the signals again. The network rerouted, received another contradiction, and rerouted a second time. Within 3 seconds, the old carved seals were switching pathways faster than their control marks could safely coordinate. The root captain saw what Naruto was doing and lifted his hand from the control seal. Naruto cut all 4 filaments at once. Every false reading vanished. The array dumped its accumulated chakra into an empty transmission line and burned through its own central control mark. The pressure on Naruto disappeared. Kurama's chakra returned in a warm rush. The root captain reached for a sword. Naruto crossed the room and punched him once. The captain hit the wall and did not get up. There was no reason for a longer fight. The man's threat had been the prepared sealing network. Once that was gone, he was simply a skilled shinobi standing in front of someone who had spent 1,000 years learning how to fight. Outside, the remaining root operatives surrendered when Kakashi showed them their unconscious commander, and Naruto stepped out of the relay, surrounded by calm orange chakra. No one had died during the fight. One communication specialist had a broken wrist. Kakashi had a cut across his shoulder. Kurenai had inhaled enough of the suppressant smoke to make her hands shake for an hour. 7 root shinobi had injuries that required treatment. Naruto's own abdomen burned where the large array had pulled on his seal. He considered that a good result. The real victory was found in the relay command room. Root had needed written authorization to repurpose a Konoha border relay and deploy a Jinchuriki containment formation. The captain carried the order inside a sealed cylinder attached beneath the control platform. Kakashi opened it using his mission command key. The paper did not contain Danzo's name in plain language. Root rarely worked that way. It did contain his command authentication seal. Kakashi went still when he saw it. The directive ordered the team to create a controlled failure of the relay, draw Naruto into the valley, and secure him alive. If Naruto resisted, the captain was authorized to apply a secondary suppression seal and transfer him to a root facility before informing the Hokage. The dead patrolman had not been part of the plan written on the paper. One root operative admitted that the patrol had discovered them early. The captain had used a narrow suppression needle behind the man's ear and ordered the body left near the road so the team would assume a quiet assassination by outsiders. The few grains Kurenai found had been accidental residue from the needle's mineral carrier, not a warning Root meant to leave behind. That turned an illegal seizure into murder of a Konoha shinobi. The directive also explained how the trap had reached Hiruzen as a normal mission. Root created the relay failure first, then passed the report through a legitimate border security channel before Kakashi ever proposed using the assignment as Naruto's field test. Hiruzen had approved a genuine-looking emergency request and placed 2 senior shinobi beside Naruto. Danzo had built the danger underneath that decision. Hiruzen received the report by emergency messenger before Naruto's team returned. Danzo received a warning through his own network at almost the same time. He made his final mistake before sunset. Instead of answering the Hokage's summons, Danzo sealed the main root headquarters beneath Konoha and ordered all active members inside. He claimed the Hokage had been compromised by the Jinchuriki, and that Root was entering emergency continuity protocol. In practical terms, Danzo had declared that his organization no longer recognized Hiruzen's authority. Naruto's team could not race home with wounded specialists, poisoned lungs, prisoners, and evidence that had to arrive intact. They reached Konoha late on the 2nd day after the battle to find Anbu units surrounding 3 hidden entrances beneath the administrative district. Hiruzen met Naruto before he entered the village center. The old man looked as if he had aged several years since the emergency message arrived. He apologized for allowing the mission to be compromised. Naruto accepted the apology, but he did not tell Hiruzen it did not matter. A Konoha patrolman was dead. Kakashi and Kurenai had merely been trapped because the Hokage's own security structure had grown beyond his control. Hiruzen knew it too. He had already signed an order dissolving Root and stripping Danzo of operational authority. The problem was enforcing it. Root headquarters had been built beneath the village over many years. Its inner barriers were designed to survive invasion, contain forbidden techniques, and suppress captured bloodline users. Charging through with large-scale ninjutsu could collapse streets and buildings above it. Danzo had also locked dozens of Root operatives inside, including teenagers conditioned to obey his orders. Hiruzen could destroy the bunker. He did not want to bury his own shinobi under Konoha to do it. Naruto understood the shape of the problem immediately. This was the lesson Kurama had forced into him during centuries of training. Power was easy when nothing nearby mattered. Control became valuable when everything did. Naruto asked to enter. Hiruzen refused at first. Danzo wanted him specifically. Sending Naruto into the bunker looked like giving the enemy his target. Naruto pointed out that the suppression systems inside Root headquarters were the one kind of threat he understood better than almost anyone in the village. Kakashi could accompany him. Anbu could secure each level behind them. Naruto did not need permission to prove he was the strongest person in the room. He needed a chance to end the conflict without turning Konoha into a battlefield. Kakashi supported the plan. Kurenai, still recovering from the valley smoke, offered to monitor the entrance teams for genjutsu and mental conditioning. Hiruzen finally agreed under one condition. If the underground structure became unstable, Naruto would retreat instead of chasing Danzo. Naruto promised. Kurama complained that this was becoming a habit. Naruto reminded him that promises were easier than rebuilding a village. They entered Root headquarters through a sealed stairwell beneath an abandoned storage building. Kakashi carried the Hokage's signed dissolution order in a waterproof case, complete with the command seal used to verify orders inside Anbu and Root channels. Behind them, ANBU teams repeated the same authenticated order at every secured junction. Hiruzen wanted every operative inside to know that surrender meant obeying the Hokage, not betraying the village. The first barrier tried to suppress Kurama's chakra. Naruto walked through it, using only his own. The second barrier was tuned to Naruto's chakra signature based on measurements taken near his apartment. Naruto changed his flow before crossing it. The barrier locked on to a pattern he had stopped using days earlier. The third level released 6 Root operatives with orders to disable him. Naruto warned them once that Root had been dissolved by the Hokage. Kakashi opened the case and showed them the authenticated order. 3 of the younger operatives lowered their weapons after seeing the command seal. Their conditioning had taught obedience to Root, but it had not erased the fact that Root formally answered to the Hokage. The other 3 had been given direct continuity orders by Danzo and attacked anyway. Naruto put all 3 on the floor in less than 5 seconds. Kakashi stared at the unconscious bodies and told Naruto he was making the mission look easier than it was. Naruto replied that the hard part was deciding who did not need to be hurt. They continued downward. The deeper levels were more dangerous because Danzo stopped relying on individual fighters. Doors sealed behind them. Corridors filled with chakra-draining mist. Floor markings tried to separate Naruto from Kurama's chakra whenever he stepped across them. Naruto recognized the purpose of each system, though he had never seen the exact designs. He did not know their formulas. He did not need to. 1,000 years had taught him how suppression behaved. When a corridor pulled chakra downward, Naruto moved it through the walls instead. When a door reacted to Kurama's signature, Naruto withdrew the fox's chakra completely and let Kakashi open it with an ordinary earth technique. When a floor seal tried to bind his legs, Naruto sent a tiny pulse into the mark before stepping on it and watched which lines activated first. He treated every barrier like a fighter showing its stance. The Root engineers had built their defenses around overwhelming Jinchuriki power. They had never imagined a Jinchuriki who understood restraint better than they understood suppression. At the lowest level, Danzo activated the entire facility. Black lines ignited across the ceiling, walls, and floor. The pressure was strong enough that Kakashi dropped to one knee. Naruto felt Kurama's chakra forced back toward the center of the seal. For one instant, the underground corridor became the valley again, only stronger. Kurama growled that he could break it if Naruto opened the flow completely. Naruto looked at the stone overhead. Homes stood above them. Instead, he placed his palm against the floor. The facility had thousands of ceiling lines, but all of them needed a central point to coordinate. Danzo could distribute power through many barriers. He could not give each barrier a separate command structure without losing control of the bunker. Naruto closed his eyes. He felt the pressure changing around his chakra. He followed the changes backward. not with sight, not with a technique someone had handed him. He followed them the way he had followed Kurama's attacks for centuries, tracing force to intention. Left corridor, down one level, behind the reinforced wall, the central control room. Naruto told Kakashi where it was. Kakashi created a lightning clone and sent it toward the obvious door. The facility reacted immediately. 3 barriers shifted to stop the clone. Naruto moved in the opposite direction. He reinforced one arm with his own chakra and struck the wall where the control lines converged. Stone cracked. He struck again. The wall opened into a narrow maintenance space, packed with seal conduits. Naruto did not destroy them all. That might have released stored chakra into the foundations. He found the 3 lines carrying command signals and pinched them shut with carefully controlled chakra. The entire bunker went dark. Kurama's chakra returned. The remaining root operatives felt it. Anbu repeated Hiruzen's authenticated dissolution order through the secured levels. Most operatives who still recognized the Hokage's chain of command surrendered. A smaller group, bound to Danzo's emergency orders, kept fighting until Anbu contained them. Danzo did not surrender. He waited in the final chamber with 4 veteran guards, and a wind blade formed along his hand. Danzo told Naruto that Konoha would regret allowing a tailed beast to choose its own future. Naruto looked at the old man and understood something that would once have made him furious. Danzo was not afraid that Naruto would lose control. Danzo was afraid that Naruto already had control and did not need him. The 4 guards attacked together. Naruto released enough of Kurama's chakra to fill the room with pressure. 2 froze for a fraction of a second. That was enough for Kakashi to disarm 1 and Naruto to pass the other 3. Danzo changed tactics before Naruto reached him. He pulled the bandage away from his hidden eye. A Sharingan turned beneath it. The chakra entering Naruto's mind was so subtle that the command almost felt like his own thought. Stand down. Accept Danzo's authority. For a fraction of a second, Naruto's hand slowed. Kurama felt the foreign pattern at the same instant. After 1,000 years, sharing one sealed space, the fox knew the rhythm of Naruto's mind better than any outside genjutsu could imitate. Kurama drove a precise pulse of chakra through their link. The command tore loose before it could settle. Naruto took one sharp step sideways and regained himself. Danzo's expression finally changed. He had aimed a stolen eye at one mind and discovered 2 minds cooperating inside the same body. Naruto did not give him a second attempt. Danzo's wind blade cut toward his throat. Naruto caught the wrist before the strike completed and drove a controlled shock through the forearm. Danzo's fingers opened. The wind blade vanished. Naruto twisted the arm behind his back, took the cane with his free hand, and broke it across his knee. Danzo had prepared formations, agents, political pressure, and a bunker built to restrain monsters. He had even carried a hidden mental weapon for the moment physical force failed. Once Naruto and Kurama broke that surprise, there was no reason to pretend Danzo could match them in open combat. Kakashi restrained Danzo with sealing cuffs while keeping the exposed Sharingan covered. The transplanted eye was treated as evidence, not ignored after the fight. An ANBU sealing specialist covered it with a suppression patch before Danzo was moved. And Hiruzen ordered its origin added to the investigation, along with the relay murder and the illegal containment operation. Anbu entered the lower levels behind them and secured the facility. By nightfall, Ru existed as an independent command. The political fight lasted longer than the battle. Hiruzen did not announce every secret Root had kept. Doing so would have exposed agents still working outside the village, and endangered families who had no idea their relatives had served Danzo. Instead, he opened the evidence to the senior clan representatives and the Security Council. The order from the Northern Relay was enough. So were the bodies, the unauthorized containment equipment, and the command records recovered from the bunker. Danzo was stripped of his office and placed under guarded confinement, while Konoha reviewed Root's operations. Officers who had participated in the attempted seizure were arrested. Younger members who had acted under conditioning and sealed orders were transferred to ordinary village supervision and evaluated individually. Hiruzen took responsibility for allowing the organization to operate outside meaningful oversight. That decision cost him politically, but it prevented the council from turning Danzo into a convenient excuse and pretending the system itself had been perfect. Naruto watched most of the process from a distance. He had no interest in sitting through every hearing. He gave his statement once, answered questions about the relay formation, and refused when one council member suggested that Naruto demonstrate Kurama's chakra in the meeting chamber. He was not there to perform like a captured animal. The refusal created an uncomfortable silence. Hiruzen supported it. 3 days after Root headquarters fell, the Hokage signed a new directive concerning Naruto's status. The document did not rewrite the laws of the entire shinobi world. Hiruzen did not have that power. It did something smaller and more important. Naruto Uzumaki was recognized as a Konoha shinobi capable of voluntary cooperation with the Nine Tails. Any planned modification of his primary seal required Naruto's informed consent and the Hokage's authorization. Emergency medical intervention remained possible if Naruto was unconscious and dying. But no security department could place an additional suppression seal on him for training, discipline, or containment without a declared village emergency. Kurama listened from inside the seal, while Naruto read every line. The fox complained about the phrase, "village emergency." Naruto agreed that it was dangerously broad. Hiruzen changed the wording so that such an emergency required the Hokage and 2 senior witnesses to record the reason before any procedure began, unless there was immediate danger to civilians. Naruto signed after that. It was only paper. He knew paper could be ignored by frightened people with enough power. But a week earlier, Konoha's rules had treated his body as something the village could alter for security. Now, those same rules recognized his consent. That was a real change. Naruto's second victory came at the academy. He returned to the examination room, where the entire story had changed. The broken chair from his collapse had already been replaced. The floor had been cleaned. Sunlight came through the same windows. Iruka waited with Naruto's qualification record in one hand and a leaf forehead protector in the other. Naruto had completed the field requirements Hiruzen set for him. Kakashi and Kurenai had both signed the evaluation. Neither recommended placing him in a normal Genin squad. Kakashi's written comments stated that Naruto possessed combat judgment far above Genin level, but needed current world experience, mission procedure, and social reintegration. The village records would list Naruto as a Genin for now, because he had not taken any higher ranked examination, while the Hokage approved his assignments individually, instead of placing him in a normal 3-person squad. Kurenai's report was shorter. She wrote that Naruto was controlled, observant, and far more comfortable under attack than he was when ordinary people showed him concern. Naruto thought that was unfairly accurate. Iruka did not make a speech. He placed the forehead protector on the desk between them and told Naruto that passing in an unusual way still counted as passing. Naruto picked it up. For a moment he remembered the boy who had stood in the same room one external day before his awakening. Desperate for that piece of metal because he thought it would make everyone acknowledge him. The desire felt distant now, but not foolish. That boy had wanted proof that he belonged somewhere. Naruto tied the protector around his forehead. Iruka reached out and adjusted the knot because Naruto had tied it slightly crooked. Naruto let him. Later that evening, he sat on top of the Hokage monument with a cup of instant ramen balanced beside him. He could have bought better food. He wanted the cheap kind from his apartment because the taste belonged to the life he had returned to. The village lights spread below. Some people still feared him. Some always would. Others had heard that Naruto helped stop an internal security revolt. The official report did not mention Kurama by name, but Shinobi understood enough to know that Naruto had entered a root bunker built to suppress him, and had brought it down without destroying the district above. Kakashi's attitude had changed. He no longer watched Naruto like an unstable weapon. He watched him like a strange colleague who happened to be 12. Kurenai had already offered to teach Naruto how modern genjutsu training differed from the older methods Kurama remembered. Naruto accepted because it was exactly the kind of knowledge the seal could never have given him. His growth had not ended after 1,000 years. It had finally returned to the real world. Kurama asked what Naruto planned to do, now that no one was trying to put another cage around them. Naruto looked toward the dark line of the village wall. He had an answer, but he did not rush it. The short note about Gaara that Naruto had seen before the relay mission had bothered him ever since. The search of Root headquarters produced a fuller report Danzo's office had summarized for the council. It described a boy in the hidden sand who was already treated as one of his village's most dangerous weapons. The file mentioned chronic insomnia, violent episodes, isolation, and a seal that allowed the One-Tail's influence to push into his mind whenever he slept. Kurama knew Shukaku. The fox's first reaction to the name was a long series of insults accumulated over centuries. Naruto had laughed until his ramen went cold. Then Kurama had admitted that whatever he thought of Shukaku, no child should spend every night afraid to close his eyes. Naruto understood that better than anyone. He did not decide to run to the sand and rescue a stranger. He had learned too much about borders and politics during the last few weeks to mistake good intentions for permission. Walking into another hidden village as Konoha's Jinchuriki could start a crisis before he said a single word. 2 weeks after Root was dissolved, the next opportunity arrived on Hiruzen's desk. The hidden sand requested a limited diplomatic meeting concerning border security and tailed beast containment. The language was cautious. The real reason appeared in a private attachment from the Kazekage's office. Sand Intelligence had learned that Konoha's Jinchuriki had used the Nine-Tails chakra during a battle and remained in full control. Part of the evidence came from their listening posts. When Root overloaded the northern relay, a burst of massive fox-aspected chakra had traveled through the border signal network before the control seals burned out. Sand maintained old comparison records for tailed beast chakra from past wars and border incidents, and the pattern was consistent with the Nine-Tails. They also knew who Konoha's Jinchuriki was. The conclusion was difficult to avoid. Kurama had been active, yet no beast attack followed. They wanted to know how. Hiruzen called Naruto into his office and placed the letter in front of him. The meeting would take place at a neutral fortress near the border of the Land of Fire and the Land of Wind. Sand intended to bring 2 sealing experts and 1 representative of their Jinchuriki program. The representative was Gaara. Naruto felt Kurama become very still. Hiruzen made it clear that attendance was Naruto's choice. After everything that had happened, that distinction mattered. Naruto looked through the office window at Konoha and considered how much had changed in only a few external weeks. He had gone from a failed academy student to a registered shinobi, with control over his own seal. Root had been dismantled. Danzo had lost the power to claim him, and Konoha had formally recognized that cooperation with Kurama belonged to Naruto and Kurama themselves. The conflict that began when he woke in the hospital was finished. Naruto placed one hand over the seal on his stomach. Kurama answered with a familiar pulse of chakra. Somewhere beyond the desert border, another child was living with a tailed beast and a seal that turned sleep into danger. Naruto had enough experience with cages to understand why that mattered. He told Hiruzen he would attend. Hiruzen handed him the travel order and a current map of the Wind Country border. Naruto folded the order into his jacket, spread the map across the desk, and began studying the roads while Kurama complained that Shukaku would be unbearable. Naruto smiled and traced the route south with one finger. 3 days of forest led to the river checkpoint. Beyond it waited the desert and the neutral fortress where Gaara would meet him. Kurama was still complaining about Shukaku when Naruto folded the map along the border road and slipped it into his jacket.